I'm 65 years old. Today's date is November the 8th, 2019. We're in Dallas, Texas, and I'm interviewing with Linda Jones. She's a friend of mine, and we met, I can't even remember, but a long time ago.
My name is Linda Jones. I'm 66, and today's date is Friday, November 8th, 2019. We're in Dallas, Texas, and Mary is my interview partner, and she is my friend.
Linda, do you remember how we met?
Over the years, so we met more than 20 years ago, 21 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 20 years.
And we met over business, but our relationship established as friends established over hair.
Yeah, the hair. That's what I mostly remember, the hair, the nappy hair affair.
Yes.
Oh, man.
And I was trying to remember how you came to that. How you, do you remember the first time you came to one of our gatherings?
The gathering, and it was just phenomenal to see so many black women that were willing to give up the perm, and because the perm was just burning out her hair, so there was a lot of women giving it up and addiction to the what we call the creamy crack. So I was just impressed with that because I was going through that transition myself. And
I'm trying to remember how I told you about it. It must have been.
It was at the shop.
Okay.
And because my hair was natural. The upholstery shop.
And I came to you. Now I remember our relationship has been so seamless that the beginning that it took me a minute to remember, but I had to get my grandmother's piano bench upholstered.
That's what it was.
I wanted to get it upholstered.
Yeah.
And to keep it. It was from the upright piano.
That's what.
And that was memento that I could still carry around with me. I could no longer have all the furniture.
Yeah, the piano bench.
You're right.
I remember.
And I still have it. And
you still have it?
I still have it. And I'm sure it was conversations just getting to know each other, but you were wearing your hair naturally at that time.
Yes,
and I told you about a gathering of sisters at my house where we were just doing each other's hair. As a way to celebrate who we are through our hair and our choice to wear our hair naturally.
Natural. It was, I thought it was phenomenal because you think about since slavery how black women always had to wear a scarf around their hair because nobody wanted to see that, and we always hid our hair. But when the straightening gum came out, then we could kind of leave the head rags off. But
you shared with me a hair experience you had when you were growing up, or what your experience was like having nappy hair growing up.
Man, that was...
Talk to me about that.
Well, my hair was short. I mean, just you could barely touch it because I had a mixture of coarse hair and a mixture of fine. And then you put the hot comb on the fine, it burns it up. So, but my mother and my grandmother didn't understand that, so they would just burn my hair out and burn my ears, the back of my neck. But I just couldn't wait to get older where I could do my hair the way I wanted to do. But it was rough coming up like that. And my sister had long hair and my hair just wouldn't grow.
I remember my mother, at the time my hair was thick. Kinky, coarse, thick. And then we would get it straightened on Saturday nights in the kitchen, sitting near the stove. And she would, oh my God, look at her flashback. She would take the comb and, of course, straighten her hair. But I remember even before that, she would pull us, we were small, up to the sink and have us lean back, and she would wash our hair in the kitchen sink.
Washing.
And before it would get real, real dry, she would straighten it. And
really, while it's damp?
A little damp, not wet,
okay.
But the
Before
roots was a little
hard,
damp, and I know that because when she would straighten the hair, take that hot comb once it was hot, and pull it through her hair, you'd hear that sizzling sound, and if it hit our scalp, that heat, sometimes it wasn't the comb in our scalp,
it was just
hitting our scalp, it was that steam and that heat. But I remember what she would do, even though she was burning our scalp, she would take the tops from the hair grease. It was the Royal Crown and the Dixie Peach, and put it on our ear to protect our ear from being nicked by the comb. And she would say, hold it to the ear, and we would, if we, didn't have, for some reason, the cap, we would have to take our finger and hold it down. But I remember when the cap would be over our ear, I'd hear so much noise. She'd be hitting that top. So that was our
click
ear.
of the top,
Yeah, so that was, oh my God, that would
been
have been
your
my
ear. In the back of your neck. Ooh, that was a hard part too.
Yeah. And my aunt, I remember my mother was trying. I was the oldest, so I was the experiment. She didn't know how to straighten her. She did her best. So she did. She managed it. It was so we could be presentable
for church
on Sunday morning. And my aunt, I really admire. She had a way of straightening hair too, where she never touched her. It was just that way she would just turn that comb and pull it through your hair and never touch it.
She was a professor.
Or she would take the curling irons, click, 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 click,
oh, yeah.
And put it in there. And I never felt a burn. I never felt anything. That's how she
and you know what?
made extra money.
Professional, I remember when we would go to the beauty shop, the smell was different than the smell in your house.
Right.
Your mother would burn. You smell hair burning, but if you go to the beauty shop, you didn't smell hair burning like that.
Yeah, I never thought. That's true. I don't know if it was exhaust things or I don't know.
I think they knew the temperature because but see, they didn't have that fire. We had the gas fire coming, and in the beauty shop they had just the heating element. And it didn't smell.
True.
Yeah, it didn't smell bad.
That's true, but that comb, especially with the grease buildup and everything else. And you know what? I didn't realize this until you think back. That smell of hair burning, which is what it was.
Yeah, that's what it
was common in the household, especially on weekends. I mean, it was common as the smell of chicken.
Yeah, sure was.
Because you didn't know, and I think it only happened one time that I remember. But someone said, "What's that smell?" And I don't know. It might have been in college or something like that because nobody black would have said that.
No, black people know the sound.
So it might have been somebody in college, or either it was a story they shared with me. But I remember this story because we were saying, "What smell?" And then decided, the straightening our hair, and we were accustomed to that smell. And,
yeah, because sometimes you had to straighten your hair every day.
Not me.
Well, it depends on if you had a rough night with your lover and you're sweating. And you had to fix your hair the next morning. It was.
You know what? And that speaks to, this is taking me places, because that speaks to how so many African Americans did not know how to swim. I don't know statistics, but just speaking anecdotally, it was that fear of getting your hair straightened or reluctance to having to go through that again once you go out there and get your hair wet, because if you weren't doing the perms, and at the time when we were growing up, at least when I was growing up,
perm.
and either, and when they did have it, we couldn't really afford it. So it would take sweat. First,
sweat would make your hair go back.
Your hair go back.
And I knew a lot of black guys that knew how to swim, but very few black women. We just, the water was just kryptonite to us. We couldn't. No.
Yeah. I had other reasons I didn't know how to swim, and if I see him again, I'm going to strangle him. I had a crush on the at the Y. I had a crush on the guy who taught beginner swimming.
Oh, really?
So I would keep going back to beginner swimming every
so you
summer.
could keep seeing him.
He never graduated me. He didn't know I was shy. He didn't know I had a crush on him. But to this day, I can manage face floating, back floating. I don't know, but maybe in a pinch I could save myself. But I officially don't know how to swim very well.
No, me neither.
And even those caps did not protect our hair.
No, it didn't. It didn't. Because the caps make you sweat, and sweat is the enemy. So, but yeah, that's how we the piano bench, and then the nappy hair affair, and
sharing stories. About,
stories.
Our hair and nappy hair affair. A nappy hair affair is my group passion.
Yeah, it's your
collective.
baby. Yeah, the nappy hair affair. There was so many people that told stories about what they went through, and I remember one time. This was the most traumatic thing I went through in my childhood. My hair was short. I mean, this long. My sister's hair was all to her shoulders, and my grandmother came to town one time. She lived in Chicago. She came to town and she told my mother, "I'm going to make her hair grow." So she took strips. I know about 50 strips of torpor sheet. She twisted my hair and then tied all these strips in knots. And then she kind of plaited up these strips. So I had these long white plaits down to my shoulder. I was looking like buckwheat.
She plaited
up the sheets, but they were tied in knots all in my head. So I'm saying, is this going to make my hair grow? She said, "Yeah, you wear this." And I went to school like that, and the teachers, they made so much fun of me. So the kids made fun, because some of the kids thought it was cute. I got all these ribbons in my hair. And the teacher said, "You look like buckwheat."
At that time, buckwheat was considered unattractive. But,
right.
You know, as we became more aware of how beautiful we are, at least I'll speak for myself. You know, I look back at the pictures of buckwheat and I say, "My God, this is a beautiful child." You know, rich, dark skin, but at that time, with what we were watching on TV and how they were made, people who looked like us were made like caricatures.
Yeah, caricatures. But was a little boy, though, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, so my grandmother sent me to school like that. And I had to wear those things for a whole week. A whole week.
What did you do?
And I just cried.
Yeah.
And I didn't speak to nobody. And my grandmother would cook real nice meals. I didn't even want to eat, because she knew I was trying to take them things off before I went to bed every night. She'd tighten them back up. It was like, oh my God.
Man, the damage, the healing.
Yeah, no, it was rough, man.
I'm trying to think of. I remember a time when my sister dumped a popcorn box full of dirt in my hair. We were kids.
Why did she do that?
Because she was a kid and we played in dirt, and I don't know. It wasn't a situation where, you know, I'm going to do this for you intentionally. It's just something that kids did.
Dirt all in your head.
Whether kids did it normally, but one of those kid things.
And
that meant, of course, having to get my hair washed and straightened
again.
Sort of off season, if you know what I mean, because it usually was just that weekend.
Yeah, Saturday thing.
It was, and I remember that. Oh my God.
Yeah, man, I tell you.
You mentioned nappy hair affair, and you know, we wound up calling those hair days, but it wasn't anything that went by that name in the beginning. It was just me inviting friends over so we could do each other's hair.
Yeah. The washing and the grooming and the twisting.
Right.
And it was nice. And we always had some food.
Right. And it was potluck. And we had to take our shoes off. Everybody
took shoes off, bringing the dirt
in the house, so everybody could just be as relaxed as possible. And it was so beautiful because we got to relax. And I remember hearing stories from the women who came about their experiences choosing to wear their hair naturally. And that's why I had people over, because, well, not so much for the stories, but so they could have a place to come and do each other's hair without judgment and celebrate their hair without judgment, because I had friends who were frustrated because they didn't know where to go and get their locks taken care of, at least not to a salon or a place where anybody would understand, or somebody to help someone, I remember
to start the locks.
Well, a friend needed help reaching to the back of her hair to get to the back to do her locks, so she needed help with that. And there is a concern about expense for those who had certain budgets and so forth, but once I heard these different stories, and then the straw that broke it was when a colleague who had just come to where I worked at the time had glorious locks, young lady, and she just couldn't find a place to get her hair done. And I said, enough. We're going to come to my house, and we'll just do our hair ourselves. And I know some other friends, and I'm going to call them. And then everybody I call, oh my God, yes. One woman who said, I'm just going to cancel an appointment. Not with the hairdresser, just an appointment to do something else. She just wanted to be there. And that first day, I remember it was the third Sunday in May, 21 years ago now, that about 20 women came over, and we sat out in the backyard and washed hair, twisted, groomed, palm roll locks, and talked.
Music, I remember that.
Jokes.
Dancing.
Sharing hair experiences.
Those were the days, man. And nobody talks about doing it again, or are we just moving on to something else?
But I remember, and that's how you gave me my name. That's where my nickname came from. I was sharing with you. One day we were talking, and I was sharing how women would come, and after they would get their hair done, and none of us knew necessarily what we were doing. We just did what we grew up doing, plaiting hair or washing hair and grooming, but giving space to appreciate our hair the way it was born, right? And so many women would leave saying, I feel so free. I feel so free. And when I said that, remember what you said?
Yeah, I said, because I was thinking about how free I felt, where I was okay with my hair being nappy. And I said, you're like Moses, you're freeing us. I said Moses, and I dropped my head, I kind of bowed a little bit. I said, no, you are Mosetta.
You gave it a feminine.
Yeah, a feminine. And a lot of people thought Mosetta was your name, rather than Linda.
Yeah, I remember you said, you leading us out.
Yeah, you leading us out, I mean.
So I riffed on that, actually, because with the gatherings and the sharing and the joy there, and the stories. Hearing there were funny stories, but there were some stories that were poignant. They were sad in the stories about the experience of being judged, harshly judged, that I decided to do other things, T-shirts and write about it. I had a newsletter called Nappy News.
Yeah, Nappy News. I forgot about that.
Editor of
the editor. Yeah, those puns on words. I remember that. That was so much fun.
You know, I give shout out to people who decided to go natural. So there was a section called
New Growth.
So I tell people, let us know if somebody went natural.
Yeah, sure was.
And so it was a way of continuing to celebrate and letting us know in a fun way it's all right to be who you are.
Mm-hmm. But do you remember how some women came, and this is true about their men, the black men, some black men were not attracted to women with nappy hair. That was the biggest thing. My man don't want me to have my hair nappy, even though his hair is nappy.
Right.
So that was something they had to go through.
Right.
And I remember one time, you know, at the shop, all of my customers were white. And when I started the shop, my hair was permed. And one customer hadn't seen me in a while, and I had gone natural. And he came in, he said, "Oh my God, Mary, how did you get your hair like that?" I said, "How did I get it like this? This is my hair." He said, "Oh man," he touched it. I said, "Yeah." I said, "See that man right there?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "He's a black man, isn't he?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm a black woman." He said, "Yeah." I said, "We have the same kind of hair." He said, "Oh my God." So it was a revelation for him.
There's so much conversation around
about
that.
The women with the black hair. With the nappy hair.
And the stories, it was, I remember when I was trying to think of something to do for the latest Nappy News. And a friend who used to come to the gatherings, who was a regular, they were going to adopt a child. They were adopting a child, and at the adoption center, they were told, the supervisor, social worker, told them about a baby that was returned back to the adoption center from the adopted parents because the child's hair had turned nappy. So you know how it is when babies are born. It's
newborns, their hair is straight,
silky or straight hair, and then in a matter of time, the truth reveals itself. Right?
The baby has an afro.
Now the hair, right? And she said that couple bought that baby back because that's not what they were prepared for.
Was the couple black?
We don't know.
Oh.
We don't know. We don't know. Mm-hmm. But that child later was adopted by, a loving couple.
Oh, okay.
But to see that as a deformity, or a sickness.
Kinky hair.
Because she was saying that there is some kind of, in the agreement, that if you didn't know about a particular medical ailment or something, if that wasn't revealed within that period of time, then they could, dissolve the contract or something because there was no full disclosure or things like that. But to imagine that how deep that sickness goes. Now, don't know whether or not it was a black family, but what we know about the brainwashing and the ugliness that surrounds the good hair, bad hair situation, would it be a surprise if it was a black family? What happened? But we don't know. But when you hear the stories, because this is something that we know a lot about in our community, that people outside of the community are wondering, really? Is all that going on? It's a curiosity. So someone who harbors negative feelings about things like that is who did that to that baby and actually shaved the baby's head when they brought it back. So, but fortunately it was a happy ending, but it's tragic, and those are the kinds of things that made me want to become a nap activist.
Yeah, the activist,
and do these positive things. So when you said Mosetta, and I started writing things like the kinky commandments.
Yeah, the commandments. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's perm.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt not lie, L-Y-E.
Yeah, with the lie we put in
about
our hair.
Having good hair.
Oh, man.
And it was so much fun, and we celebrated. And then what's so fun is it was the women getting together. We were exchanging stories of black women and feeling so comfortable. And then the guys started saying, well, how come we can't come and whatever,
Yeah, I remember they started coming.
And I remember asking permission of the group. Guys want to come, you're okay with it? They were okay with it. And I say, well, you guys are going to get your hair done before they come, right? Because we're still going to be who we are, the guys. And I told the guys, now you're going to have to do hair too. We don't know how to do hair. Well, you're going to have to massage scalps or rub shoulders, massage shoulders.
Feet or
do
something.
feet. And they did. And it was so beautiful. And the children were already coming because some of the women were mothers. So for the children to see this kind of family interaction, and for the women, when the guys would come, their hair would be sticking up all over their heads. Who cares? We're getting our hair done. We're not thinking about you. And the guys would come, and because we would go in the backyard if the bathtub was occupied with somebody washing someone's hair, and the kitchen sink and the bathroom sink.
Yeah, the water hose. Yeah,
we get the water hose out there in the back. It's so wonderful. So the kids would see that, and everyone would get involved. And there were some really special moments when the guys were doing. There were a couple situations where one guy would help another guy with his hair without any issues about gender or this, like that.
Masculinity and
stuff. Said, hey man, I got that. I help you with that. And I would just get goosebumps just looking around at all that.
But it's something about somebody when you kneel before somebody, and when we did the hair, you were between their knees.
Right.
And
sitting down like
sitting down. It's something healing or something. It's, I don't know, it's something like in church, feet washing or something, but it was something you felt something when you're between somebody's knees and they're doing your hair.
Because remember, we grew up with that. You sit down between mama's
between
knees.
your mother's knees,
comb your hair, pull
healing.
that comb, and if you wince too much, you might take her knees and bop you in the kind of...
Yeah, in the head. But it was a safe place. It was a safe place between their knees. Yeah.
And that was, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I would do more watching and looking, or I'd do somebody's hair, but I'm running around making sure everything's going right, and everybody's comfortable. But to take pause and look around at, it might be someone sitting on the floor, then someone sitting in the chair, the one on the floor is between the knees of the...
Yeah, and somebody standing
up behind them, like stair step, doing
it
hair.
was.
And to look at the expressions of bliss.
Mm-hmm.
And, my mind would wander to, these are women who serve everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't serving themselves or enough.
Yeah.
But here they are, nestled and comforted. And it was just such a peaceful look. And doing hair and talking and sharing. And I remember early on, someone, we would take videos of those gatherings, primarily because I wanted to see what was going on after everything was done, and sit back, and because I often missed so much when I had gatherings, and people would tell me later, did you know what this so-and-so did or so-and-so said? So it was that. It wasn't, let's take a video because we're doing a production. It was just capturing moments. And I remember sharing that video with my mother at the time when she was living in Ohio. I shared it with her, and I shared it with some other people. And one thing that I got from several, the ones who saw it, was my mother said, honey, nobody's talking about anybody. Nobody's gossiping about anybody. And she said, and another friend said, you're not bashing men or any. It was just
different,
wonderful stuff.
But take that same setting. If you're in the beauty shop, it's nothing but gossip. What's the difference?
I don't know. I don't know, but and that's why I think it struck several people when they saw that, because we're able to get together and not be catty and all that. It's not being, that goes on all the time. Think about when we grew up and we were doing that and how comforting it was. So
Sure.
I love that. But one of the things, along with your giving me my nickname, Mosetta, you gave me, and I have to say, a gift of a story when we were, once again, talking. It was after Hair Day, and we were talking about hair stories and sharing things. Yeah. And you shared with me something that was so powerful about how you decided to go natural.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That sound of putting that spritz, because I had a perm then. Boy, you put spritz on your hair and you put that curling iron on it. And me being a crack addict, that sound of that spritz and the curling iron was just like the crack pipe.
Yeah, it was a trigger.
It was a trigger, and it was months before I figured out that was a trigger. But I was doing my hair one night, and when it hit me that's what was doing that, I could only curl half of my hair and then try to find my dope dealer. Right. I was getting out of the house with half of my head done.
When you told me that, I remember I wanted to fall out of my chair, because we've had conversations, and you said, it matter of factly, that you were recovering. At the time, it was 10 or 8 years in recovery. But what made you stop was not wanting to hear that sound of that straightening comb, that sizzling sound, because it would take you to places. It would take you to the crack house, and something happened at one of the times you went to go get, and that just changed your resolve.
Sure did.
And it was astounding, because what's so simple about our hair and our self-image and our pride and so forth, that actually going natural actually saved my life.
Because if you're holding a crack pipe and you got enough coke and crack in the pipe, and you put the lighter on it and that good sizzle, you got enough crack on it. And when you curling your hair, you get that sound, you're gonna have a nice curl. And it was just like, God, there's no way I could continue to do that, because you got to hold a big rock on your pipe. Oh, I had to stop.
That was so powerful, and I remember, oh man, when you told me that, there was a time when I hadn't seen you in a while, and then I saw you, and your hair was straightened or permed. And I remember asking you, I think I called you, because it was bothering me, and I wondered whether you had gone back. And I said, are you all right? And then I explained to you why I was concerned. I said, because your hair is straight and the sound doesn't bother you. You said, you tell me what you said.
Yeah, because it didn't bother me. Yeah. And I did that to see if it would bother me. Oh, this particular time, it did bother me. I'm sitting at the beauty shop, and it did bother me. And I left the beautician and went straight to the AA meeting. Wow. So I wasn't ready. I had to wear my hair natural again for about a year. Yeah. And then I backslid and started straightening my hair again. I kept toying to see if the sound would bother me. That's what I was doing. And this time, the third time, it didn't bother me.
And when you told me that, I just took a breath.
Yeah, my kids did the same thing. My son, Mama, are you okay? Your hair is pretty, but are you okay? You're not going to go back to drugs. I said, no, I'm okay this time.
Yes.
It took 3 times to do it, yeah.
And those gorgeous silver gray locks you have now.
Yeah.
How many years in recovery?
Oh, God, 27. 1987.
Yeah. I wound up writing a poem, as you know, about that.
Yeah, I sure did.
It became performed, called The Sound.
The Sound. Oh,
And
man, I love that.
Thank you. I remember when I did it, when I would do it, sometimes I'd get emotional because what was going through my head is the things that we do to alter ourselves to be something that we're not, and the effect that it can have on us in different ways. So all of that was going through my mind when I would do the poem, starting out with that sound of the straightening comb, that I would get emotional sometime and cry. And so at the end, people, when I would perform it, at a poetry set or something, people would come up to me telling me their stories of recovery like it was me. And
they thought it was you.
But it was you. And remember the time that I bought you?
Oh, yeah, and you introduced
and
me.
did that poem and introduced you. And you were the real person who experienced that. So many women in recovery came to you, right?
Yeah, sure did. Yeah, they did. And they acknowledged that sound, and they hadn't paid attention to that. But with you doing that skit, they said, "Oh, that is so true."
Wow.
And it sounds just like your hair being straightened.
It's powerful, but being who we are is powerful too. So I never thought that nappiness.
Yeah, and would save somebody's life. You wouldn't think to get you off of drugs. You got to stop straightening your hair. It's so simple, but that was what saved me. I had to quit doing that.
Yes.
I'm so glad we ran into each other.
I know. I'm looking at you now. Wow.
Oh God, we still have to continue and help our people. I'm glad it's still there because you get older, your hair falls out. So it's like, oh, please. And it's best for me not to comb it. So
because it doesn't want to be combed.
It doesn't want to be combed. Just leave it alone. And that's the best thing I can do.
Silver gray ringlets with a little ornament in there.
Yeah, a little cream or something to soften it up.
Powerful.
Yeah, so.
I'm so glad we reconnected to talk about this.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story, and I just hope you can do that performance more, because I've seen it several times, but I cry every time you do it.
The honor to me was that it told your story, because the first time you told me that story, sitting at the kitchen table, I just started writing notes.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be like that.
Yeah, so to be able to share it in a way poetically, creatively, and have it touch people and to touch you was a gift, as our friendship is.
The sound of our friendship, that's amazing.
Hot.
Yeah, a lot of sizzling.
Thank you for talking to me today.
I enjoyed it. This is wonderful.